My wife can't keep track of Donald Trump's legal problems, and I don't blame her. Me wife typically enjoys following Trump scandals. Like most American women, she's not a fan of the 45th president. But she drew a blank when I asked her what she thought about Trump's civil trial in Manhattan, where he's accused of misleading lenders and insurers by fraudulently inflating his net worth by as much as $3.6 billion between 2011 and 2021 to obtain favorable terms on bank loans and insurance policies. I haven't followed that one, she said. But I'd be surprised if he wasn't exaggerating his assets, just like he exaggerates everything else. Right? Many Americans have lost track of or interest in Trump's legal problems, and it's easy to see why. All told, he faces the Manhattan civil case, plus 4 criminal indictments representing 91 felony counts. He could spend the rest of his life behind bars, but my money is on him avoiding jail time. Here's a quick cheat sheet in case you've lost track of the criminal cases. There's the porn star hush money case in New York, the mishandling classified documents case in Florida, and election interference cases in Washington, D.C. and Georgia. Trump's stock has been rising in the GOP primary polls since the indictments started pouring in April, when Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg indicted Trump for allegedly falsifying business records by reporting hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels as legal expenses. Weeks before the first indictment, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis hit 30% in the polls, while Trump was barely above 40%. Trump is now at 59% compared to 12% for DeSantis and even less for the other contenders. According to the Real Clear Politics average of polls, Republicans have largely bought Trump's claim that New York Attorney General Letitia James's fraud case against him is a witch hunt. She bluntly stated in 2018 that she was running for office to challenge this illegitimate president, Trump. What is fueling this campaign? What is fueling my soul right now is Trump and his abuses, she said. Ms. James promised to follow Trump's money and be a pain in his ass, but so far, he's used her crusade to his advantage. Trump continues to appear at the trial, even on days he isn't required to be there, to stoke drama and articulate his victim narrative. The judge, State Supreme Court Justice Arthur Engoron, a Democrat, will decide the case without a jury. He's already found Trump liable for fraud and ordered the cancellation of the business certificates that allow the Trump Organization to operate in New York. A state appeals court halted Engoron's cancellation order while Trump appeals, if found guilty on the remaining charges in the case. Trump and his company could be barred from making commercial real estate acquisitions and applying for loans for 5 years. Ms. James also wants Trump to be permanently barred from doing business in New York and has asked the judge to impose $250 million worth of penalties. Trump's legal fees from this and other cases are soaking up dollars, upwards of $130 million in campaign contributions so far, that could have been used for his campaign. And there are reports that the Manhattan civil case hits close to home for Trump because it calls into question his net worth, which is a proxy for his self-worth. Americans expect a certain level of chicanery out of billionaire businessmen, and it seems unlikely that this trial will sway many votes. Witnesses have testified that Trump ordered them to cook up numbers out of thin air. For example, his penthouse in the Trump Tower was listed for years in financial documents as being 30,000 square feet, 2,787 square meters, when it's actually 10,996 square feet, 929 square meters. Politics is a lot like sports now in America. People pick parties and politicians and support them as they would their favorite sports teams. Democrats have their popcorn ready and are aroused by images of Trump in courtrooms, and the prospect of him potentially facing jail time. The charges against him have already boosted his chances of gaining the nomination, which is exactly what the left wants. So far, Republican voters seem content to walk right into the trap. Undecided voters in a handful of key states, Pennsylvania, Georgia and Arizona most notably, will decide the election. A recent Franklin and Marshall University poll in Pennsylvania shows Trump losing to Biden in the state by 2 points. 17 witnesses have already testified in Trump's civil case, garnering negligible public interest, with Trump, his sons, Eric and Don Jr., and his daughter, Ivanka, on deck. Trump's offspring will be well coached by their attorneys and are unlikely to admit to anything incriminating. The election interference cases likely carry more risk to Trump's standing with independent voters than this case. Conservatives often rail against America's culture of victimhood, but with Trump, many in his fold are happy to see him embrace the victim role he now relishes. It remains to be seen if the Trump family taking the stand in New York changes electoral dynamics, but I suspect people like my wife will continue to ignore the proceedings while Trump supporters and opponents continue to root for and against him, regardless of the facts and verdict.